Hello, welcome to this week's hashtag Toe-to-Toe. I'm absolutely delighted to say the guest this week is Ramla Ali. I'm very much looking forward to talking to you. We are going to get into more detail on the podcast later on today. Pleasure having you as always, Andy. I'm looking forward to talking to you. I see you every week though.
Well, of course, yeah, but it never gets old, does it? Let's be honest. Not for me.
As I said, we will get into more detail, but what got you into boxing?
Just like most people, just to lose weight for fitness reasons. I was fairly young when I started boxing, about 13, and was bullied quite a bit in school for being overweight, so just got into boxing.
What was it like when you first walked into the gym?
It was really scary.
Was it?
So scary. Well, I went to an all-girls school, so I walked into the gym and it was just a bunch of men, like angry men, and it was really, really intimidating. But I just kept going back out of sheer pride.
Which gym was that?
It was a gym, so I don't remember the name, but it was part of a church. So it was like a community centre.
Okay.
At the back of a church. It was in East Ham. It's closed down now because I went to go look for it the other day and it's closed down.
Okay, I live around there. That's why I asked, because I thought I might know it. But yeah, so I wasn't aware of the big clubs around there.
I was on Sibley Grove, so it was like 2 roads down from Sibley Grove.
Okay, I know what you mean.
If you know, do you know the church that I'm talking about? Yeah. So it's just behind the church.
Okay, it's amazing. These places crop up in all sorts of
and that's
locations.
The beauty of them, though.
It is.
Well, when I was younger, my brother was boxing, and his gym was above a pub. So do you remember Ruskin Arms?
Yeah.
He was training there. So obviously I couldn't go there, so I had to find somewhere else.
Yeah.
Like Andy said, they crop up in the weirdest and wonderful places. Let's get into this. Lindsay wants to know, who's your inspiration in boxing?
That's got to be Katie Taylor. She's amazing. Yeah, she's an absolute delight to watch. It's like poetry watching her box, really. She's just flawless. So yeah, I wish I could box like that.
In your time in the sport, what are the changes that you've seen in terms of women's boxing?
Oh, it's grown so much since the inclusion of women's boxing in the Olympics. Has just been such an influx of women's taking up the sport, which is amazing. It means that there's more competition when you compete. It's more competition abroad, internationally. You fight like pretty amazing girls on the international scene as well as a result, which is great.
And the likes of Katie Taylor, Andy, we talk about it on the shows quite a lot, of when is it going to get to the stage where it is just boxing and it's not women's boxing. And whenever we watch Katie and yourself, Ramla, you're like, it's just boxing, right?
I don't think we're too far away from that, because we've had 2 Olympic Games now, and there will be 5 weight divisions for the women in Tokyo rather than 3. So your division, 57 kilos. And 69, so that will kind of broaden it out, whereas before people who weren't really at 60 would go and box at 60 anyway, and if you were 64 you might try and get down. If you're 57 you would push yourself up.
Well, I met a girl recently who boxes for Canada. She said to try and qualify for Rio, she was 54, she couldn't make 51, it was just too hard, so she stepped up to 60. I said, wow, that's amazing. And she said she'd weigh in at like 57, 58. So that must have been really hard, like taking punches of a 60-kilo girl, and you don't even weigh 60.
Well, that's what people were doing as well, and with 69 kilos has been added too, and that's great, because previously it went 51, 60, 75. So if you were a 69 fighter, there's no way you're getting down to 60. But if you box at 75, you're giving away a stone basically, and it would discourage people from boxing at those weights. So that's 5 weight divisions, 100 female fighters in Tokyo compared to 36 in Rio.
That's brilliant,
so it's a massive, massive increase.
Absolutely. Siege wants to know, what drives you to continue to box? What's the motivation?
I think for me it's like I've always had this fear of being average, just like blending in with everyone else. I want to stand out. I want to be different. Where does that come from, do you think? I don't know. I think like since I was in school I always like blended in with everyone, and because I was bullied quite a bit, I have this passion to just be, I don't know, better, just not be average, be different, stand out. And I think that's what drives me to continue to work hard, to improve on who I was the day before, And yeah, that's what does it for me.
That's as good a reason as any. Florence has tweeted and saying, after Tokyo 2020, if make it, fingers crossed, absolutely. What are your goals? Post?
I would love to turn professional. So we were just talking about this earlier. I get no funding, so it'd be nice to earn from boxing for a change. So that is the goal post Olympics.
How great would that be to see you turn over?
It'd be brilliant. It's what we need to see as well.
Definitely.
Because professional boxing, women's professional boxing, has definitely flourished since women's boxing was introduced into the Olympics. But you know, it's been going for a long time. You think of Jane Couch in the 90s. She was. This all started with her, really, professional boxing in the UK for the women, because she fought a court case to be allowed to do it. And if she hadn't done that, then who knows where we'd be. But you look at fighters like Von der Ward and Anne Wolf and Lucia Riker, doing massive fights, but they weren't in the UK. They're over in the USA, and that's what we want to. That's what we want to see. And that it did get to a point there where people weren't talking about men's and women's. They were just talking about boxing, and that's, you know, the more women who turn pro, the more competition there is, the better the fights are. That's how we get there, I think.
Absolutely. Laura wants to know, what's your biggest motivation that always makes you want to win? What is it in you?
I don't like losing. I don't know who.
I don't think anyone.
I don't think anyone likes losing. So that is the motivation to win. Like because boxing is not like other sports. You know, there's one winner and one loser, and you don't want to be the loser. So you want to be the winner. You want to be the one that feels like you're on cloud nine. So that is for me. I don't like losing.
Have you always been quite a confident person?
Not
always. Or has
always.
that come through the boxing?
Yeah, I think my confidence has grown over the years. Definitely, I was always very shy and intimidated, and I think that's developed a lot more through boxing on the international scene, competing against like some of the best girls in the world, and knowing that you could share a ring with those types of girls obviously improves your confidence, and I think that's what's done it for me.
Shuja wants to know, I know the story, but how did you convince your mother to let you keep boxing? Because you kept it secret for so long.
For so long, yeah. I think the convincing didn't really come from me. It came from a family member, so my uncle, who you know, since I think watching me, you know, backed me, and he wanted to know what my fear was of, you know, pushing forward. And I told him, like, I'm really scared of what my mum would think. And he said, well, he's going to speak with her, make sure she's supportive. And since that day, I kid you not, she's now my biggest fan. So I think for her, she was just worried about, like, I don't think any mum likes knowing that people are talking bad of their kids. So since that, and since she knows now that people are being quite supportive, she's really, really supportive.
Who in your family did know?
It was only my younger brother, so he would be the one I'd tell things to. He'd be the one that'd help me sneak out the house and make up excuses when I came home late from a competition.
So if you came home a bit battered and bruised, how
run upstairs. You just run upstairs and just try and hide under the bed so you can't really see the black eyes, and then.
So if you were going to a competition, what excuses would you say you were going to do? I'm going out to train, I'm going to go.
No, so I was fortunate at the time, like I was still in uni, so just be like, oh, I'm going on a uni trip for the day or for the week.
A uni trip
for the weekend, and that's how it was.
It's a remarkable story.
It's great. I love it because it's a throwback kind of story, because the story you've just given us there, if you go back 100 years to boxing in New York particularly, London to an extent, but particularly New York, you'd hear the same thing, but rather from a young Muslim woman, you'd hear it from a young Jewish kid, a man, because that's what they did. They hid it from their parents. And the Irish, the Italians, the Jews, huge boxing forces in New York at that point. And the Irish and the Italians, their parents weren't that fussy. Jewish parents absolutely did not want their boys to box. No way. So they all changed their names and they all lied about it. Benny Leonard, who was world lightweight champion in the 20s, one of the best lightweights of all time, same thing. And people would keep his cover, and then they let it slip one day, and there was hell to pay in the Leonard household. But that's how it went. And so 100 years later, we've got the same kind of situation. It's a well-trodden route.
But I think as well, the determination to do it, and you hid it for so long, having that there stands you in so much good stead going forward, because that's what you want to do, and you'll do it at all, at any cost. Really.
At any cost, yeah. You can't. I just didn't want to let something stand in the way of something that I loved. So just keep everyone happy. Just, as they say, ignorance is bliss. So if she didn't know, she was happy. So.
Well, she knows now. Thankfully. Lola says, you're an inspiration to many. Do you ever worry about the pressure of succeeding?
Oh, 100%.
Are you a worrier?
I'm a big worrier. I worry, oh, am I going to perform well today? Because you never know. Like, some days you're not 100%, and some days you're 1,000,000%. Some days you perform amazing, and some days you don't. So I just hope that even if I would obviously try 100% to succeed, but even if I don't, I would still love to be thought of as inspirational.
How do you deal with the pressure, though? What sort of thing do you do?
I have a little psychologist that we talk like once a month, and if something may just come up that's making me feel on edge, we always talk through it. And she's great. She gives me all these like cute little exercises to do, and I do it, and then I just feel better after. I think that's the key, always.
And more fighters we seem to be speaking to, Andy, seem to be using the psychologists to help them in their game. Yeah,
absolutely. And I think one of the key things is kind of working out what you can control and what you can't, and how to control the controllables and try your best to let go of things that you can't. And one thing you can't control is what people say about you.
Yeah, but the only thing you can control is how hard you train. So you can only do as best as you can. And I always give 100% in everything that I do.
And boxing is a strange sport, and there are other things you can't control. You've just been boxing in Bulgaria, and you drew a Bulgarian fighter in the first round. It went to the cards, and you didn't get it. Of course, you didn't get it.
Of course,
that's how it works.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, it shouldn't, but that's how it works, and that's the fact of life. And you just hope that it doesn't happen at a crucial point. But if it does, then some people won't understand. People don't understand the world you're in. A lot of the people don't, and there's not much you can do about that, really.
Yeah, Heather Hardy tweeted the other day about judges, which is very interesting. She said, how do you sleep at night? How do you wake up in the morning and decide who you're going to give a decision to, and let someone's weeks and months of training just go down the drain? And I think that's just spot on. Like, how do you sleep at night?
What changes do you think need to be made?
I think it just needs to be a bit more fairer. Like, I always get judged before I step in the ring for the country that I represent, so Somalia. No one's ever boxed out of Somalia, so even a friend of mine told me quite recently, if I ever drew a Somali, I'd think, yes, get in there. So, yeah, definitely. Like, I think boxing should be judged on what's happening
in the ring.
In the ring, yeah. So you shouldn't be judged on what country you're representing. Definitely.
I mean, the good thing about all of the outside of the ring stuff you're doing, like, everything's about the boxing for you, I know that, but obviously it's a question of money, because you need the money to get to tournaments, but also the more publicity you have, the brutal fact is the less likely you are to get robbed.
Well,
because there would be more publicity. Well, I mean, it might not feel like it at the minute, but that
hopefully when it matters, it won't. I
mean, there are tight decisions that can go either way, but I've seen decisions.
It doesn't make it right that that's the way it is.
No, it doesn't. It doesn't. But that's what happens.
Yeah.
I mean, not every decision that goes the way you don't think it should is a robbery, not by any stretch. But you see it. I've seen it, like, firsthand with my own eyes. Somebody in a country boxing against someone from that country. I remember seeing Scott Forrest in the World Youth Championships 2012, and he's a good fighter on his way up now. Had an Armenian in the final, won the fight clearly. didn't get it. You know, that's just one example. There's plenty. I'm not saying that we're all crying about it, but it's just, you know.
This could be a programme in itself, though, couldn't it? The discussions on that. Migs UK wants to know, what's the biggest barrier to getting into boxing? For you personally, and I guess for others that might experience it.
Back when I started boxing, female boxing wasn't a thing. So finding a coach to teach me how to box was really hard.
Finding a gym that you could go into, I guess.
Well, no, even the gym I went into, I was ignored for ages because nobody took an interest in women's boxing. But now I think it's changed. Like, women's box, I believe, is the future, and because there's so many girls getting into boxing, more coaches like want to teach women, I think. So I don't think it's as bad as what it used to be.
When we had Kate Taylor on, she was saying that when she went into Ireland again, that how many girls now are in the gyms, and that is fantastic to see, just the ripple effects of the likes of yourself, Kate Taylor, the influences they're having of getting women in the gyms.
Yeah, I mean, to start with, I think it was more a case of young girls will look at boxing and just think this isn't something that I'm supposed to do, and they would just, that would be the barrier.
That's
whereas now,
stigma attached to it.
That's
right?
it. I think now it's got to a different level where there would be certain cultures, if you like, or sections of community who might still think that, but then someone who's breaking down the barrier like you have, they'll just think, okay, well, that is for me. This really is open to anyone, and they can be quite intimidating places, boxing gyms, if you're not used to that kind of environment, and you might walk in and,
especially like if you're a woman and you walk in and you just see a gym full of men, it's very intimidating.
And there's no women's facilities, there's no changing room, there's no toilet, for example.
But now everything is adapted. Like, there's so many women in a gym that you like, as a woman, you don't feel intimidated. More gyms are having female changing rooms, which is amazing. When I used to train,
it's just such a simple thing, isn't it?
Yeah,
You think,
it's just a little thing, but it makes all the difference.
Yeah, I mean, I can't really imagine going into a kind of sporting setting where there are just not facilities for you. I mean, how would that make you? It just make you feel like you shouldn't be there.
Well, you'd walk in and walk out, wouldn't you?
Yeah. You just, I mean, it's changing. It's
my very
changing.
first gym had no women's changing rooms, and obviously I couldn't go home looking the way I did, so I had to wait for all the men to get changed and showered, then I could go in, and it was just forever. It was horrible, but yeah, now it's different.
Yeah, we're getting there, I think.
We're getting there slowly.
So much more to talk about with you, and we will be doing that on the podcast later on today, which will be available on iTunes. Thank you both, though, for now, and we'll see you next week.
Sky Sports. Feel it all.